Do you struggle to achieve self-confidence in romantic relationships because of repeated rejection? Certainly, you are not alone in this, and there are a lot of ways to experience rejection. If you're single, you might be rejected at the end of the date, or maybe they ghost you unceremoniously. If you're partnered, you might feel like your needs or desires are dismissed by your partner, as if they're uninteresting or not important. These experiences of rejection can add up to a very heavy energetic armoring in your body and in your spirit, which unfortunately, due to the law of attraction, will only call unto you more experiences of rejection. How and why this happens and what you can do about it is what this video is all about. Today, I'm going to share a clip of a live stream event that took place with my online students regarding rejection. By the end, you will know the unexpected reason for why you keep experiencing repeated rejections and my unusual suggestion for how you can start to change that pattern in your life. But first, if you are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Brianna McWilliam, and I am a licensed and board-certified creative arts therapist with more than 15 years in the field, helping adults struggling with insecure attachment go from self-doubting to self-sovereign so they can attract the soul-shaking, passionate partnerships that they want. And I do this using a psycho-spiritual approach to creative arts interventions, which I call the McWilliam Method. The content on my YouTube channel is derived from my online courses, which you can learn more about through the link in the caption of this video. If you would like to learn more about your attachment style, you can take the 4-question quiz. If you like what you see and hear and you want to learn more, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. I put up videos once a week, and I wouldn't want you to miss out. Let's dive into our topic for today. Now, today's topic was inspired by a question that was posed inside my Facebook group. How do you deal with rejection as an insecure person? I understand if they reject me, it says more about them than me. It could be a reason that has nothing to do with me, for example, and maybe there are other people out there. But why doesn't that thought comfort me? Every time this happens, it feels like the rejection that I felt from my parents as a child, and it's as if it is being validated and makes me want to just give up and not want to connect with anyone. What are your suggestions? How do you not feel like it's you when it happens over and over and over again? So I'm going to be breaking my answer down into 4 major points. And in the last point, I'm going to offer 4 steps to kind of change the energetic frequency of rejection within you and its magnetic power in your life. I'm also going to tackle this question backwards to forwards. So for example, the first point, how do you feel like it's not you when rejection happens over and over again? Well, the short answer is, you dissect your underlying premises for how reality works, and then you escape the validation trap. Well, what does that mean? Okay, let's dive into the long answer to that question. Now, I'm going to approach this from the angle of the law of attraction and point out a fundamental boundary confusion and misunderstanding that is being expressed here in this question. So there's not something wrong with you, who you are fundamentally. There is, however, a kink in the underlying beliefs and the premises upon which you are perceiving your reality and your role in it. So by pouring a lot of expectation and attention to your past and your present physical circumstances, you perpetuate an old story of rejection and needing to be validated. And that adds a lot of energetic and vibrational momentum to the point of attraction that you've got going on inside your person. And it hands disproportionate power over to someone else to prove your worthiness, to prove your rightness or your wrongness, and to be the key and gatekeeper to accessing your own feelings, good or bad feelings. And when we do this, we ignore the boundaries that exist between us, and we're perpetually moving away from the essence of who we are. We keep ourselves at a distance from the essence of who we are. Okay. And so via the law of attraction, your circumstantial experiences cannot help but mirror back to you from the outside what is going on inside of you. And when you look to the outside world to prove something to you about yourself, you reveal inside of you the presence of an inner judge and critic or manager that has already determined that you're not worthy. And this is a rejection of who you are. So you will attract partners that keep rejecting you too, or they will keep themselves at arm's length, or they'll come on too strong and seem to disappear, Or you will attract partners that are too intense, that make you want to keep yourself at a distance from them. Or you will attract partners that don't want to look that closely at you because you're too afraid to look that closely at yourself. And we know that you are because you keep seeking other people's approval in the form of validation. And so when we try to maneuver things that we cannot control in our external environments, like our partners, in order to feel differently on the inside about ourselves, it's like trying to change the lipstick on your face by drawing it on the mirror in front of you. As long as you stand perfectly still, then there will be an illusion that you have somehow managed to change that color, but make even the slightest move and that illusion will dissolve. And of course, you can't stand still forever. So this is where it's important to understand that anxiety and avoidance are two sides of the same coin. Both anxiety and avoidant attachment evolve out of significant struggles, typically in childhood, where there was lots of emotional dismissal or invasion. They are just different ways of coping with the same type of self-wounds. So you would not be anxiously clingy if you were not trying to avoid the experience of being alone with yourself. And you would not avoid intimate relationships if you did not experience intense anxiety within them. And so when we look at situations where one is chasing the other, or you experience repeated rejections and emotional unavailability, it becomes clear on a subconscious level, usually, that you'd rather spend a lot of time obsessing over someone that doesn't want to get caught, even if consciously you feel miserable and think you don't. Why would you do that? Well, someone who doesn't take the time to look that closely at you is a much safer person to chase down and obsess over, aren't they? Because they're not likely to turn around, put much effort into challenging you to be truly vulnerable and exposed. But if they did, now that puts you at a real risk of rejection, doesn't it? I mean, imagine if you did catch them or they allowed themselves to be caught. And then they decided that they are going to turn around and take a good, long, hard look at you, flaws and all. And suppose that they don't really like you after all. Suppose that they don't really want you after all that. What would that mean about your worthiness or your good enoughness, right? So that inner judging critic would finally be vindicated as harboring the ultimate truth of your worthiness. And how could you ever live with yourself after that? Well, you wouldn't want to. At least your ego wouldn't, which is why it's basically an attachment threat of death. Okay, so it's better to remain obscured rather than confront a story of worthlessness that you've got going on inside your head, which often disguises itself as boredom or suffering from a lack of challenge or not feeling that spark and discounting partners that are too nice. Okay. Now, the second point I'm going to make. Every time it doesn't work out, it feels like the rejection I felt from my parents as a child and as if it is being validated, and that makes me want to give up trying to connect with people. What are your suggestions? Okay, so the short answer here is you need to speak directly to your inner child through metaphor, meditation, creative arts approaches, and or energy healing, and establish a loving relationship to it. If you don't, it will always undermine you because just as you are endlessly seeking a partner's validation, your inner child is endlessly seeking your validation. Here's the long answer. When you're overly attending to what's going on in the physical world around you, a barometer for what's realistic or for what's possible, you are playing an old CD expecting a new tune to come out of the speakers. So there's an energetic momentum that's kind of stuck on repeat inside of you. And that momentum we've just described as the inner critic and or the wounded inner child or both is how it expresses itself. So if you have inside of you a record that keeps skipping on, not good enough, not valid, no one sees me, no one wants me, then your external world will persistently mirror back to you, not good enough, not valid, unseen, unwanted. So how do we stop this momentum? How do we shift the focus from what's going on right in front of your face to what could be, not based on what has been, but based on what you want it to be in the future? Now remember, everything in your life as it exists in this present moment is an afterthought of what came before. It is a reflection of your energetic vibration up until this point. And if you keep investing in what came before, there's no way to create anything new for the future. Now, the best way to make a radical, the best time to have made a radical change was 5 or 10 years ago. But guess what the second best time is? Right here, right now, today. Now, if you can allow what has been to remain in the past and instead shift your attention forwards, well, now you're cooking with gas. And that is what cognitive reframing is all about. Of course, the paradox is that you cannot build an old kitchen or a new kitchen on top of an old one. So you're going to have to rip out some of the old cabinets and countertops. That's just part of the process of loosening the energy that has gotten constellated around these old coping skills and ego-based programs that are running in your unconscious mind and have embedded themselves in your nervous system and musculature. And it's really a process that requires you to stop building your identity around an old paradigm of sad and burdened stories and instead adopt a new identity of the version of you that you want. So engaging in a process that allows you to do that will allow you to stop perseverating on the past and needing things to be a certain way according to those paradigms. And if you can commit yourself to that, then you realize that you have to change your energy from the inside out. And this is an embodied process, okay? You have to change your internal point of attraction first, because your point of attraction is vibrating at a certain frequency today. Because it is vibrating at a certain frequency today, it is not likely that tomorrow you're going to attract the one that saves you from yourself, because that never really happens. Okay. And that's not to say that through other relationships and our social connections and even sometimes romantic partners, we are not supported and learn things about ourselves, because oftentimes it is through those interactions and a return to community that we are saved in the truest sense of the word. But there's a framework within which we need to paint that picture of healthy and secure. And it is a framework that we often pigeonhole far too tightly and narrowly and qualify as only existing through the frame of romantic partnership. So we have to kind of step outside of that frame for a little while in order to collect the best paints if you ever want to hang that picture on the wall. So in other words, to start to understand that love and validation and connection and worthiness exists on a far broader spectrum than solely in romantic partnership. At least it does so on the level of the human ego. And that is where we are starting when we are in the thick of an insecure attachment drama. If we are to bring this back to universal law, however, these things, these notions of worthiness, do not exist at all. We are beating ourselves up with an invented construct that is totally irrelevant to the ways that the universal law works. And this is going to relate to the first part of the question. So remember, I said I was going to answer this backwards to forwards. So here's the third point. I understand if they reject me, it says more about them than me. It could be for a reason that has nothing to do with me, and there may be other people out there. So why is this not a comfort? Okay, so here's my answer. The paradox is that it is and it isn't about you. It isn't about you in the way that you are assuming, which is on the level of ego, of pride, of validation, of attachment needs. But it is about you in the sense that it's a mirror for a larger spiritual expansion that is going on inside of you and behind the scenes. And so in articulating your understanding alongside your inability to feel any differently about being rejected, despite this understanding, points towards the intensity of the energy caught up in the mind and body and energy bodies around the topic of worthiness. So it is not a commentary on the essence of you, but it could be a reflection of how much you are still rejecting yourself internally on an unconscious and energetic level. We cannot think and talk our way around attachment wounding. We have to feel our way through it. And that means addressing healing as an energetic process on the level of the unconscious, on the level of the body, okay, and on the level of spirit. So that means you have stuff stored in your tissues that you are entirely unaware of, even if you think that you have somehow mentally figured it out and gotten over it. Even if you're doing all the right things, and it's communicating, these blockages, these energetic blockages and stored up stuff is communicating with your environment like a magnet. It is communicating with the law of attraction like a magnet. So you don't have to be aware of your energy blocks in all of their forms in order for them to affect you or whatever you are attracting in your environment. Your awareness doesn't control everything. Your insight doesn't control everything. And if you've ever said, I know what my problems are and yet I still feel the same way, then you know what I'm talking about, right? You are well aware that there's a lot within you that you don't control. And it's probably causing you a lot of anxiety, right? And even if we become aware, it's usually only a sliver of the whole construct that we actually grasp when we make efforts to release those energy blocks. But energy blocks have to be addressed if you want to see real changes in your life and your relationships. And I have so many clients that say that they're doing all the right things. They're taking all the yoga classes. They're meditating 20 minutes a day. They're eating gluten-free organic food. They're doing and saying all the right things with their dates. They're reading all the love scripts, and their partners, to interact with their partners in just the right way. And basically they should be getting the A grade on being the change they want to see. And yet, their ideal partner has not shown up yet or emerged from within their existing partner. And why not? Haven't they earned it by now? Aren't they entitled to it by now? So this attitude reflects the same type of energy that keeps you begging after approval and validation from people who do not have the power to give it to you. They don't have the power to give it to you. It's just repackaged in Lululemon leggings and a meditation app. So in other words, the essence of insecurity is still there, which is an ego mechanism built around entitlement, performance, validation, approval, acceptance, rejection, and worthiness. And all of it keeps you separate from yourself, from your spiritual self, from your true self, from your higher self, from the essence of you, whatever you want to call it. So it's a mechanism that passes judgment internally as much as externally. It is an aspect of your identity that assumes it is entitled to some kind of validation, whatever that actually means. But here's the thing. The rock does not need your validation to sit in its stillness. The wave does not need your approval to crash against the shore. The sun does not need to prove its worthiness by rising to its summit every day. And you are no more or less enlightened, morally righteous, good or deserving or entitled, with or without a partner. Allowing a need for validation to push you around is kind of like being born with fingernails and then begging someone else's permission to keep them. That's not something somebody else can give you. Those fingernails are yours. You were born with them. Worthiness has absolutely nothing to do with it. Worthiness is an ego construction that assumes so much more importance than it actually has, and it wreaks so much havoc in its wake. Now, of course, we are all due respect. We are all enjoy acknowledgement. We all are due our free will and our place in this world. And when people encroach upon those things, it is our responsibility to hold our boundaries and our ground. We are human, and it is human to get upset when someone is neglectful, invasive, or wants to invalidate your experience. And so those upset feelings are supposed to compel us to take action in the direction of what would serve us better moving forward, moving in the direction of thinking and behaving in a way that is most aligned with the infinite, loving, and compassionate intelligence and attitude of your spirit. Now, in insecure relationships, however, we don't move towards what would serve us. Instead, we have a habit of clinging to what does not, begging it to become something that it isn't, to give us something that it can't, and then constructing a whole lot of nonsense and erroneous meanings and fantasies about it, because as children, we had no other option but to do this. We were trapped. We were helpless, and our brains were not yet mature enough to see our parents in their own context and to see those contexts in the bigger picture of what's possible for life in general. So as children, we do not have the wherewithal to say, wow, my parent clearly does not have the tools to do this whole parenting gig. They've obviously got some baggage and hangups that existed before me and will continue to exist after me. And it sucks that I just happen to have gotten caught in the crossfire. But that doesn't mean that my needs aren't valid or that there's nobody out there that will want and be able to meet them. So I'll just bide my time and wait till I'm an adult, and then I can go seek out those people and circumstances. That is not how it goes. That is not how the story goes. When we are children in our parents' house and they are struggling with their attachment wounding and they're taking it out on us because we're the closest and easiest target, the sense that we make of it sounds more like, Mom is mad at me, I must have done something wrong, or there must be something wrong with me fundamentally. If I change myself, then Mom will love me and I will be less of a burden to her and I will have earned her love. Love must be about figuring out what people want and making yourself into that, even if it hurts. Therefore, real love must be painful. And so The brain and body and the energy created by the electromagnetic fields in your body get stuck playing this sad story of being rejected and burdensome on repeat until it carves a groove so deep in your brain and nervous system that it starts to seek out and or recreate those same circumstances in your adulthood to reinforce those beliefs that you originally constructed while making sense of your mom's bizarre behavior. Now, in effect, this is like putting colored lenses over your eyes that filter for information that you are looking for, like the omnipresence of rejecting partners, to the exclusion of all other evidence, like all the potential partners that do exist and would actually stick around. Now, while all of this is going on, we still incredibly, and impressively amass and acquire tremendous skills for coping with difficult environments. But if the emotional wound is deep, as they are with attachment wounding, we become like a tree growing around its own nuts, and we remain ignorant or resentful of the real power and responsibility we now have as adults to be an active participant in changing our environments. We had to grow up too fast. No one took care of me then, so I'll be damned if I take care of myself now. I want someone else to be in charge and to do it for a change. And so the more resentful we are, the harder and the denser those knots become with time, as more and more energetic armor is heaped on top of them. And unless we are able to release those perceptions and beliefs and the energy caught up in that original groove and resentment, the patterns will repeat, because that is what you are attending to. And so that is what your energy is caught up in. And so that is what is ringing out from your point of attraction. Okay, so here's the fourth point. How do you carve this new groove? Take conscious command of your inner world, which is reflected in your outer world. To do this, it's going to require 4 core steps. And these are the 4 core steps that I follow in most of my online courses. Number 1, you're going to clarify your desire and the mental noise that emerges when you voice that desire out loud. Okay. Number 2, you're going to identify the root pain, which is the cause of all that noise, usually a false belief or an underlying premise. Then you're going to release the energetic blocks that are constellated around that noise and hanging out in your body, right? And in your energy bodies. And then number 4, you're going to install new beliefs and embody energetic practices that foster an improved quality of life and relationships. You are going to experience post-traumatic growth. Okay. This means to amplify your energy in a way that serves you. You're going to have to take responsibility for your thoughts, for your actions, and for your reactions to what life throws at you. This does not mean that you are assuming more fault than is your due. It means that you are increasingly aware of what is yours to assume accountability for and what is not. You must assume the position that you have the power to create the life and love of your dreams, regardless of what you cannot control in your circumstances. You must figure out how to honor your desires and take the fear out of them so we can step into a high vibe place of concrete manifestation in the world of physical form. Then you learn to divine from your own place of deepest wisdom the next inspired action step to take. And to do that, it's important to realize that your desire is not the enemy. The beliefs that you have wrapped up in whether or not your desire is possible is the real enemy, right? That is the real issue. And these are what point to the root pain. Now, to clear your energetic blocks around this root pain and install new beliefs that open up the possibilities for you, in my work, I use creative and embodied modalities and experiential exercises because creative energy is life force energy, is libidinal energy, and that is the most powerful tool that you have in your tool belt. And what I do with my clients is simply help them build a bridge between them and themselves. And I do this using my psycho-spiritual approach to creative arts interventions in the framework of attachment theory. I call it the McWilliam method. Okay. And if you want to learn more about those things and what I do, I will include a link to the caption of this video to more information. If you would like to learn more about how to implement these 4 steps and gain greater confidence through the experience of self-sovereignty, I recommend taking the attachment styles quiz in the caption of this video. After 4 easy questions, you will find out what type of attachment style you have and receive a detailed explanation on how to make immediate changes with a special limited time offer. And finally, please let me know in the comments if you find this content helpful and share a bit of your experience. I take all comments into consideration as inspiration for our next video installments. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.